Hi, my name is Camila and today I will explain how the blending modes work in digital art. I am using Krita, but the principle can be applied to any digital software as they work quite similarly. If you find this video valuable, please give me a like or leave a comment and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. The artwork from this video and my other drawings are also available as prints on my imprint and as digital wallpapers for both desktop and phone on my coffee. This video is divided into 3 chapters, so you can skip to the part that is the most interesting or valuable for you. Now let's get into the video. In digital art, layers are used to separate different elements of your drawing or painting to create the entire artwork. By using layers, you can create a sandwich that is the finished picture. You can also call it a sort of a collage. Blending modes are used to change how the layers interact with one another in terms of color, brightness, and contrast. Blending modes can be applied not only to layers, but also, for example, to your brush strokes. Photoshop has a nicely categorized blending modes panel, so I will use it as an example, as the names and the function of the modes are the same across most of the digital softwares. In short, you can use blending modes to achieve different effects, like creating shadows and highlights in your painting. In the next chapter, I will show you the 3 easiest to use blending modes that are perfect for beginners and can make your painting life easier. I'm starting off by importing a texture layer as my background. This one is from the Unsplash website. You can learn more about layers from my older video. When you create or import a new layer, it is automatically set to normal mode, meaning there are no effects or blending modes applied. To change the blending mode of a layer, go to your Layers tool and click the drop-down menu that is under the Layers header. The layer blending mode affects the entire layer. I will demonstrate how that works later in this chapter. Now, when you go to your brush tool on top of the window, under the menu bar, you will see the brush settings, and one of them is the blending mode that can also be applied to your brush directly. This option affects only your brush strokes, not the whole layer. For this tutorial, I am using a brush from the paint category in Krita. I will use it to paint the roses or peonies with just a few brush strokes. This method is perfect to paint close, fresh peonies like these from my reference photos. Firstly, both my layer modes and my brush mode are set to normal. There are no blending modes applied that would affect the painting. You can use this mode to color a larger surface. Now let's switch the brush blending mode to multiply. This mode is used to darken the areas, and I use it often to easily create shadows. The layer mode is still set to normal, only the brush mode is changed. When applying the first brush stroke, it looks the same as if it was on normal mode, because the layer mode is set to normal, and the brush blending mode has no interaction with other pixels yet. However, when I continue with another brush stroke, as you can see, the edge that my brush touched is now darkened. The same will happen with every other brush stroke. Each color will get affected. In this case, because of the multiply blending mode, it will get darker. As you can see, I am using the exact same color of my brush, and just because of the multiply blending mode, the shadows are created almost automatically. To apply highlights, also keeping the same brush color, let's change the blending mode to screen. This will make your brush strokes lighten the image, and in that way you can apply highlights to your painting. And the last blending mode that I will show you is overlay. This is a blending mode that intensifies the color and makes them more vibrant. Personally, I use it more for highlights rather than to darken my image, but it can be used both ways depending on what effect you want to achieve. Now that we have the brush blending modes covered, let's go back to layer blending modes. Currently, the layer where we have the roses is set to normal. When I change it to multiply, screen or any other blending mode, it will change depending on what is underneath that layer. In my case, it is the paper texture. The paper texture has not changed, it is still set to normal. You can also intensify the effects by duplicating the layer and changing the blending modes of the copy. And the last part is to see how the texture can affect the painting. I have duplicated the paper texture and moved it on top of the layers. When changing the blending mode of this layer, it will affect the entire painting, the roses and the background. And that is everything for this chapter. I hope it was helpful, and if you want to see how I use blending modes in my painting, please keep on watching. I am sharing more about my painting process in my other videos, but I basically use the same technique when painting most of my artworks. I mostly use the 3 blending modes explained in chapter 1 of this video. By having a darker background, it makes it easier to demonstrate how the blending modes for both shadows and highlights work. In this example, I am using a normal blending mode on my brush to color block the full character, but my layer mode most of the time is set to multiply to show the paper texture underneath. Because of the features of the watercolor brushes in Krita that I like semi-transparent, the first softer shadows can be achieved just by using the brush on a normal mode, but the layer mode is of course still set to multiply. To add more shadows to the painting, I'm changing the brush mode to multiply, and I continue to add more and more brush strokes or layers until I'm satisfied with the effect and the intensity of the shadows. For highlights, I often use the overlay layer mode, but in this case screen looked more natural and soft as the first layer of highlights. The brush color can be darker than the desired highlights, since for this I am changing the entire layer mode, not the brush mode. The darker brush color makes the highlights look more natural and not as harsh. Though depending on the look you're going for, you can make the highlights very shiny and bright too, then just pick a lighter brush color. In this example, to make highlights more saturated and to bring more color to the skin, I added another highlights layer. This time setting the layer mode to overlay, but changing the opacity of the layer so it doesn't look that harsh. Multiply or overlay can also be used to add color to the skin, like blush, etc. For the last step, I am doing the same thing as in chapter 1, duplicating the texture layer and scrolling down the blending modes to see which ones look the best for the final painting. Some of the blending modes can really turn the painting into a horror show, but it's fun to see how many different effects can be achieved just by changing the layer mode. For the last chapter, I have a full time-lapse for you. I recorded this by using the built-in Krita recorder tool. I've shared my thoughts about switching from traditional to digital art in my previous video. When I started, it was hard for me to imagine I would be painting original concepts and painting digitally, as it was very hard for me at first, and creating without a proper reference was basically impossible at the time. So I'm very proud of myself that I progressed this far and that I have the skills and inspiration to draw more original works. I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking, this is sort of a fun art as well, but the vision is my concept. This drawing is inspired by Aphrodite from the mythology, as we are in between two of the best holidays, Valentine's Day and also Women's Day. And my last original painting was the Sword Timber one. I have also a full long video with that one where I show my entire illustration process. It is a little bit similar to this one since I have also painted a lady with flowers, but the vibe is completely different. For this one, I wanted to paint the goddess of love and had this very specific concept in mind to paint her in water, as it was described that she was born from the sea foam, and because the water, seas and oceans are often the symbol of femininity. But when I tried that, I wasn't really satisfied with the result, as I haven't been painting landscapes and backgrounds lately at all. So I opted for more of an abstract and simple background in the end. I definitely wanted to add the flower garland even without the water, and by doing that I actually discovered this simple way of drawing peonies, which I showed in chapter 1 of this video. I used this technique to paint the flowers in the foreground of this artwork. I really like how this painting turned out, even though I did struggle with the overall composition because of the flowers that go both a bit horizontally and a bit vertically. But I think the most important element is the overall vibe of the painting, and I feel like I got what I wanted, even if it drifted away a little bit from the original plan. Let me know what you think. And this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far. Again, if you would like to have this or any other of my paintings as your desktop or phone wallpaper, you can find my wallpaper packs on my Ko-fi, and for physical prints, please visit my in-print page. Your support is much appreciated and gives me the motivation to continue working on this channel and to create more content for you. Please feel free to leave your feedback in the comments. I hope this tutorial and video was easier to follow than my previous ones, and that the chapters helped you to find the part you were most interested in. Thank you again, and see you in my next video. Take care, bye bye.